Welcome back to another episode. This week I've travelled to Zadar in Croatia for another UTR PTT event. My hope is to do well here, earn some cash, and then get back to playing some futures. It's going to be another tough week with a lot of matches on the dirt. It's day one of the UTR and my first round opponent is Lucas Vugler. He's from Croatia and from what I can see, he's a bit of a clay court specialist. He was also a left-hander which made things even more tricky. He was really abusing my single-hander with that heavy lefty topspin, like what Nadal did to Federer. Conditions-wise, it was pretty tricky. It was hot, dry and windy, which meant the ball was just really getting up on the clay, so I was always being pushed behind the baseline. To be honest, these clay courts also weren't the best. There were quite a few bad bounces which just made taking the ball earlier on the rise even more difficult. So I managed to take the first set, but after that, the match just slipped away from me. My opponent just locked in and played some really solid tennis, and I was struggling to find the answers to it. Even the simple putaways were starting to become a nightmare in these conditions. Once you're tired and you're behind in the scoreline on the clay, it's so hard to recover from. You don't really get many cheap points on serve, and you've got to be prepared to work very hard physically in every rally. So day one didn't go so well. I was going to have to really up my level if I wanted a chance of winning the group. So day two was actually my day off. When you're playing UTRs, you get one day off per week. So we're straight in for my second match of the week on day three, and I was taking on fellow Brit and junior Henry Best. I didn't actually know a lot about my opponent, but I'd heard that he was very talented and he trained on the clay, so I definitely wasn't going to underestimate him. The conditions in this match were completely different to the first match. It was humid, slow, heavy. The ball wasn't really going anywhere. You had to really connect with it well to do any damage, which I think really suited my game. The ball wasn't getting up as high to my backhand, and it gave me so much more time to move around and take on my forehand. Even when it did come to my backhand, I was often able to hit it on my front foot. So I was hitting through the ball more and taking it on. My plan in this match was to keep things really disciplined, really physical, and just try to be relentless. Because the conditions weren't really allowing us to hit through one another, it was going to be a lot more about patience. Even though I was up in the scoreline, during the points, it felt like we were neck and neck. By this time, the balls had gone really slow, so each point was just a slog. It was really annoying because I felt like I wanted to be a lot more aggressive, but I didn't really want to take much more risk or open up the court too early and give my opponent more angles to play with. So I was just trying to keep my height over the net and depth and then wait for those short balls. Sometimes it was just taking like 20 shots to get there. And by this time in the set, my serve was pretty much doing no damage at all. Normally my serve's a weapon, I've got a lot of confidence in it, but here, in these conditions, I found myself almost just using it to get the rally started. That's why I was going for a lot of kick serves, just to get the ball really moving, get my opponent outside the court, and then take up position on the inside out, inside in, looking for a forehand. My goal in this situation was to use the serve purely to create space. Towards the end of the first set, I was starting to find ways to break through my opponent. I felt his shot quality just dip slightly, and I was able to control the court from the middle, using that heavy shape on the forehand to push him back, and then ripping the angle to get him moving. And even though it wasn't easy to take the ball early on the clay, because of the odd bad bounces and the unpredictable nature of it, I was taking it as early as I felt comfortable. And I was starting to feel like my opponent was doing a lot more moving than I was. Even though the rallies were long, I felt like I was saving more energy. I was starting to feel very happy with my level, especially with what happened on the first day in my first match. Having bombed out of that third set, 6-love, to make this sort of recovery and bring this sort of level, I was really happy with it. I just wanted to keep it up for the whole match. At 5-2, we were approaching the 45-minute mark, which was a pretty long time, considering how many games we'd played. And I managed to get my first set point on my opponent's serve. And he really wasn't making things easy. Every point throughout this set had pretty much been a battle. And even though I was up in the score, I felt like my opponent did a really good job of just making things so tough for me. He didn't really do much wrong, barely made any errors, and a lot of his decisions were very disciplined, and they were always making me work. I really wanted to get this set done here so I could start the second set serving. Even though it wasn't a huge advantage in the conditions, I just always preferred to serve first, if I can. So it was a pretty solid first set, but this match was far from over. I was expecting another battle in the second set. My goal was to keep that discipline and patience that I had in the first set, and not feel like I had to push any harder or rush to get the match finished. I'll be honest, it wasn't exactly easy keeping this level up physically. It was pretty hard work, but I knew my opponent was going to be feeling it as well. Apart from the long rallies, it was also really humid, sweaty, sticky conditions that can often speed up the onset of fatigue. By this point in the match, we actually got new balls again, which added a completely different dynamic. All of a sudden, the ball was jumping up again, it was lively, and it was fast, which really helped my first serve out. But once we were in the rallies, it gave my opponent a little bit more motivation to take the ball on, knowing that he was probably going to be rewarded. So we traded a few breaks of serve at the start of the second, and I managed to ride out a storm of my opponent playing actually very well. The rallies and the games were actually very close. Even though the score might look comfortable, it definitely wasn't. Each rally, each game was a battle, and my opponent was forcing me to produce one extra shot every time. And he just kept going. Each time when I maybe thought, this was it, or I was getting close to the end of the match, my opponent would dig in again, make things very tough, and I had quite a few chances to break serve again, but he just kept finding ways to hold. Apart from one game, I'd been pretty solid the whole match behind my serve. Even though some games were getting pretty close, I still felt pretty relaxed about it. I knew that I was finding my first serves when I needed them, and I was using my slider wide, my kicker, to open up the court really well. So about an hour and a half into the match, I got my first match points. And to be honest, I was keen to get this match done here, but I was going to have to win it. By this stage, my opponent wasn't giving me anything. He was barely missing a ball, and I think by this stage, he'd actually relaxed a lot. So he was starting to play a lot more aggressive, he was really letting his shots go, and he was starting to move forward very confidently to the net, something that he hadn't really done in the whole match. And this was making me feel like I had to do something more. It was now down to me to up my shot quality again and try and take the ball on a little bit more, because if I didn't, I was going to be on the defensive, and I was going to be relying on my opponent missing, which isn't a great place to be. So it was back onto my serve, serving for the match. I was trying to lock in, not thinking about the 2 match points that I'd had in the previous game, and also not forcing anything. My opponent was definitely putting me under more pressure, but I had to stay patient. I knew there was going to be a drop in his level at some point. On my 3rd match point, I was thinking to myself, try and stay proactive. It's very easy at this stage to just want to put the ball in the court. It feels like the safe thing to do. But I told myself, as soon as I see the space, I'm going to hit it. And I got my chance. It was a bit of a battle, but I got it done, and kept my hopes alive at being able to finish the box as number 1. I'd have to win all my remaining matches in straight sets. What are your thoughts on the food so far?
It's better than mine.
Is it? Your spag bowl's incredible, mate. Don't put yourself down.
It's been a tough day.
It's bloody unbelievable. Can't wait for it again tomorrow. 3rd time this week.
When's your turn, mate?
think I'll take the day off. I don't think you want my cooking. Yeah, look at this. We've got a what is that? Ham and
It's a capricciosa.
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 Ham and mushroom sounds delectable. Gone for the old pesto pasta with chicken there. Shout out to the Merg, Finn Mergett. He knows the hot pesto pasta routine very well. Just had dinner in the supermarket. Need some what are they called again? Detergent pods for the clothes. Splendid. How are we doing, Shungi?
Yeah, I'm pretty tired now.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back to the Airbnb. But so because the stringing at the club is, you know, not amazing, it's not what we're used to, we've had to come to this mall, and there's a tennis shop in the mall, luckily, that does stringing, and apparently the stringer is an ATP stringer, so hopefully there's going to be no complaints. I'm pretty pumped about it, because one of the things that really frustrates me is like bad stringing. Like, you know, I can put up with like bad conditions, I can even put up with bad tennis balls, but stringing is just one of my things that it's got to be right. You know, and it really frustrates me when it's not. And then, you know, also as well, if you like, I'm not saying you complain, but sometimes I'll like make a criticism about, you know, the stringing, and I'll just say like, are you able to do this or this or this? And sometimes the stringer is just not interested, and they'll just like basically tell you to f*** off. You know, which I can understand. I look like a type of guy that, you know, you would tell to f*** off, but you know, I just want my stringing done properly. I want my rackets done. I want to be able to trust it, you know what I mean? And I didn't feel like I could trust that stringing. So that was one of the things that was going on in my mind during that last match was, you know, it was like a worry almost. Like every kind of few games I was thinking like, is this going to break? Or, you know, the tension was pretty bad. So, you know, like I had to make a big adjustment with my game and that sort of thing. And luckily the conditions were pretty slow, and I was having to hit the ball pretty hard anyway. So it kind of actually worked out kind of well, but I would have liked way more safety, you know what I mean? Like it just felt too loose basically. So but yeah, so that's what we're doing. I've dragged Alex here. Alex is getting a racket done as well. I'm playing him tomorrow. Just had dinner with him. It's carnage.
Tonight's entertainment.
You have to know if she's gonna like you though.
How was the coffee brew?
Yeah, it was good, man.
It's good shit.
How was the brew?
Yeah, it was very good brew. So it's day 4, and I'm taking on fellow Brit and good mate of mine, Alex Maggs. It's never easy playing a mate. It just adds another dynamic to the match, and it can actually be slightly uncomfortable. Even though I've done this hundreds of times, played so many people that I know or I'm mates with or even sharing a room with, I don't think it ever gets easier. I know Alex is a very good player, and he's currently 2-1 up in our head-to-head, so this definitely won't be easy. And he's got a very tricky game style. He mixes the pace up well, has great hands and feel around the net, and he was catching me out so many times with his drop shots. I feel like the surface in this matchup actually really helps me out. The clay helps me to neutralize the play a lot. So when I'm playing players who are very aggressive or they serve very well, it just helps me to stick in the rallies. But saying that, Alex is very good at taking it early, especially on his backhand side, and it was causing me a lot of problems early on in the match. The conditions were also pretty tricky. It was very windy, and we were playing on the end court where the bounces were, shall we say, unpredictable. So I managed to get the break, but I was a little bit tentative behind my serve, especially off the ground. I didn't quite keep my foot on the gas in the game at 4-2 and just let my opponent back in slightly, which he ended up playing a good game and breaking me. And obviously I was a little bit frustrated because it's annoying when you have the break and then you just give it back. You work so hard to get it, and then it feels like you should be holding, but all I could do was put my focus into my next service game, try and improve on the mistakes that I made at 4-2. And that's what I did. I said to myself that I'm going to be 5% more aggressive off the ground and just try and rip the ball high and heavy. Really push my opponent back and then wait for a chance to step in and open up the court with some angles. super simple stuff. It was a pretty tight hold at 4-all, and I was getting a little bit tight, but I managed to make it through and had another chance to break serve at 5-4, this time a set point. And I managed to take it. Not an easy set at all, pretty tricky, a bit of a battle. In the second set, I got some good momentum, managed to run away with it a little bit, and went 4-love up. But again, I couldn't afford to switch off. I know my opponent's very good, and if I give him a chance to get back into the match, he'll take it. At this point, the thought in my head was the match was pretty much over. I was only 2 points away from winning. But from this point, my opponent really upped his level. Started taking the ball on more and smoking winners past me. And I was finding it really difficult to deal with. Like in my previous match, where my opponent really upped his level of aggression towards the end, the same thing was happening here. So I was going to have to make sure that I kept my level of aggression and was aiming to win the match. I wouldn't say that I was that nervous or tight. I felt like I was actually playing pretty well. I maybe could have made a few more first serves, but it just felt like the moment that I left something slightly in the middle of the court, my opponent would just put it away. At 5-2, my plan after getting broke was to just lock in and make things as tough as possible. Put all the returns in and be as solid as I can from the baseline. In the back of my mind, I was always thinking to look out for the drop shot as well, as they were catching me out and I was losing a lot of points because of that. This was my chance to really get the match done. I really didn't want this match to keep going on. The longer it went on, the more tricky it was going to get. And it was so hard because you'll probably hear on the camera that it was really windy. And I was playing with the wind, so I was trying so hard not to overhit, knowing that even if I hit it pretty softly, the wind was going to carry it over the other side. So my first match point of the match. And I actually played a pretty decent point, just overcooked this backhand down the line. But I got another chance at deuce. And this time, I wasn't going to let it slip. So I managed to get the match done 6-4, 6-2. And in doing so, gave myself an even better chance of being able to make the semi-finals. All I had to do was win my remaining match in straight sets. Join me next time where I'll be taking on the #1 seed in the whole tournament for a place in the semi-finals.